Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is
Wednesday.
I know. I'm looking at myself on two screens. I'm getting all confused here. It is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You need to shut the volume off on your cell phone if you're going to have it running. Otherwise, I'm going to keep getting feedback.
No, I'm not. I don't have my cell phone. I don't have my cell phone on, CJ. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm just going to shrink this. There we go.
No, I'm still getting feedback. You gotta mute your YouTube channel.
I'm gonna get rid of the YouTube channel. That thing's already aggravating me. There's a delay in the YouTube. That's right. What's happening. You're getting reverb.
Right.
Okay. Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk, despite the technical difficulty because of YouTube. And it is Wednesday in the rib. And we got a lot to talk about. Oh, boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, CJ.
Laura Sampson, who stepped out of the city council and quit. Bye-bye. Maybe Linda will do it next.
Well, when in doubt, cave like a cheap suit. That's well, in a way, you don't want somebody representing you that's not willing to fight the fight. If you believe in something, fight for it. But when the heat, what Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, if you can't, if you're not willing to fight for what you believe in, get off the council, because you're supposed to be fighting for the people, not just your own special interests.
The worst part about it, okay, is number one, as we talked about before we started broadcasting, Linda was on the prevailing side. Linda could have just made a motion to reconsider. But that's off the table now. Linda, you're an idiot. You didn't realize what you were doing. Well, then Fredette, the corporate counsel from the city, does the city put an ad out saying, if you're an idiot, come work for us as an attorney? Because so far, we've had no good attorneys. Obviously, the man doesn't know, because he turns around and says, nowhere in the charter does it say you can object. It specifically says you can object to the charter. That was written in. Single objection, any meeting. They can call a special. 2 objections, next regular city council meeting. Or next regular school committee meeting. It's that simple. And Paul, Mr. the nose growing, went on and spoke to the press again, because, Paul, he's got to talk to the press. Paul turned around and said that he only submitted it down to the city council again because he received phone calls from city councilors saying to put it back on the agenda. He received phone calls from one, Linda Pereira, so she could do her friend a political favor.
Yeah. And then she bails. But listen, parliamentary procedure, they run by it, but they don't know it. And as you said, they got all bogged down in the charter. That's good for the people, because the people now are going to get maybe a process at some point. But it's too bad. You got a lawyer that doesn't even know what the charter says.
That's right.
You got Linda, who's been to meetings, for 20 years, over 20 years, doesn't know what the rules of a motion to reconsider is. She voted on a prevailing side. She was the big vote in that vote. She voted on a prevailing side. They could have forgot about the charter and just said, I voted on a prevailing side. I want to make a motion to reconsider. On the parliamentary procedure, that has to be made by someone who is on the winning side, prevailing,
right,
if you don't know it. And then the second does not have to come from somebody on a prevailing side. It could have been seconded by one of the yo-yos, Kilby or Hart, and then the vote would have been 5-4, and she would have been hired. Dumbos. Right. You're all dumbos. You wonder why this city is in a hole, like you said. We get lawyers that can't make a living practicing law on their own. They got to come live off the city dole, because a good lawyer doesn't need to work in Fall River for the city. They can make a living by practicing law. As a matter of fact,
a good lawyer makes fun of Fall River.
That's right. Good lawyers do. But I mean, their ignorance of the laws and the procedures that they're supposed to be working under is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. They don't know anything. No, I don't know. Well, that's right, Michelle. Shame on him for doing what he thought was right. He has a position, and that's the Democrats love to talk about democracy, but they hate it. They hate it. What did they do? Shame on you for supporting your position. Just do what you're told. That's what Democrats want you to do.
God forbid they have their own opinion.
God forbid. Shame on you. And then go storming out like a spoiled child or resign. Let's see. We're getting a text here. Dawn Surratt's husband.
Another one who lives off the city dole. Yeah.
Isn't she the one that went to the council and said, if you don't like it, move out of the city?
Yep.
Good thing I got good memory.
Yep.
She's the one that said, you don't like it, leave. You don't like the Paul Coogan. You don't like the Paul Coogan
wasn't
Nazi government. Well, let's see. What happens in Fall River? When you're people like that, you get rewarded. You get jobs in the school department. You get pay raises through the leg. But you know what we get? I brought out some archival footage. Yeah, Colin was there. And George says he was there. That's right. Kudos to him. Yeah, he did. He just identified her. We just identified her.
Yep. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Dawn Surratt placed on the Fall River Line Pier Board of Directors?
Yes.
In opposition of at least one city councilor who didn't want to put her on there? Mm-hmm. I could be wrong.
But you're not. But this is what Dawn Surratt supports, okay? Remember this? That's the air duct at Durfee High School.
That's right.
And at some of these other schools when we had that. Here's another picture of the air duct. And here's a better picture. Now, this was before Paul, but ever since then, what has this guy got in this city? What do we get? Yeah, you're right. It was, according to one of our viewers has identified it as Dawn Surratt. Well, okay, here's another one, guys. You can't see it. Can put me on a small screen again, CJ. I think it shows up better on a small screen. Put yourself back on. Oh, he's not here. Well, I'll wait till he's here again. But this is a picture of Fall River Public Works Director Kenneth Pacheco suspended. Article by Michael Holzman, who's no longer at the Herald News, was a good reporter. 2012. So here we are in 2025, 13 years later. What does the guy that got suspended for knew who was responsible for the 22 windows, but would not refuse to tell the city council who was responsible? What has he got? He got moved over to the school department, got a giant pay raise. And he misspent money over there. And what did they say? Tommy Corey, I love him. He's a wonderful man. I love him. Keep giving him pay raises, Paul. I know he screwed up. And what did Paul say? Oh, he just made a mistake. Made a mistake with taxpayer money. That's malfeasance by a government official. Okay? Because you're right. That's what he does. But remember something. He always tells, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I was told to. The mayor was told to do. So now we have a mayor who is admitted. Am I hearing things? We have a mayor who admits he does what he's told by the city council. A couple of city councilors told the mayor what to do, and he did it. There's a real leader. This is what I showed, CJ. You're away. This is what happens in Fall River.
Oh, yeah. I saw it. I said, isn't that Ken Pacheco?
Yeah. And he refused to identify who was responsible for the 22 window debacle. This goes down forever. And what he does is Paul always says, that's not what I didn't mean that.
That's not what I mean.
That's not what I really said. I didn't intend to say that. Listen, this guy does nothing but not lead. So he responded to a city councilor saying, put it back on the agenda. Why not hold it? I think he was told at the council meeting to hold it while they came up with a process. Then the council, refresh my memory, 9-0 vote to institute a process.
Right, and to have interviews.
Yes.
Even if Furtado came out and got the recommendation, it was still a process. Stevie B just sent us a message. Camara again, interrupting the citizens' input, doing anything and everything to get the voters away from voicing their opinions, which, by the way, most of the councilors aren't interested in hearing. True. They don't want to listen to us.
Let me interject here. No relation.
True.
You have to specify which Camara here, because you got one sitting here, but not a relative. But this is insane. Coogan, all he does is say, somebody told me to do this. I didn't mean what I said. What kind of leader? You've been in office for nearly 6 years. You couldn't lead a one-man parade.
He's a puppet.
This guy he's a puppet. But I mean, for him to actually admit that he did what he was told. So Linda called you and you did what you were told. Linda says, put it on the agenda. Okay, Linda. No, the only reason he did that is because he put it on the agenda because he was going to get his way.
He thought he was going to get his way.
Right. That's why the other one that went down there and started yelling, they stamped their feet and their head bursts into flames and they run out of the council chamber. This is what they do. And all we have with Coogan is cover-ups and excuses and deflections. And I didn't say that. Remember when we had that shooting up at Corky Road? Who was the first guy there? Chris Peckham.
Yeah.
Public safety. Then after Chris Peckham initiated a meeting, Paul stepped in and overrode everything. Oh, I'm here, because he didn't know what to do. He was running around with his finger up his butt.
And we made it a point on at least 2 or 3 of our shows back then. And just so people know, Chris Peckham is running for the city council again. This time he's not going to let his hands get bound up. He's not going to get caught up in the bull. And he's not going to let things be done privately in secret. I say give your vote to Chris Peckham.
He's got my vote. He fought hard. He fought hard for that opera money. He called him out and he got squashed for it. And they went after him, but he did it. No, you're right. That's exactly right. She was going to vote for it, make it a 5-4 vote. And I can guarantee you after that objection, that's why she resigned. Frustration. We didn't get our way. I'm resigning. They're going to drive me crazy. I can't can't get my way. So, I mean, the Academy Award goes to Laura. She's the best. She has the best. She gives the best impassioned speeches.
But as she said, I had planned not to run for re-election anyway before these past couple of city council meetings. And now I have to resign to protect my clients. Well, guess what? Such is life. Somebody actually called me and said that it's tantamount to exposing an abortionist or an abortion clinic. And I said to them, it's not tantamount to exposing them. Everyone knows where they are. They put big signs on them. They're not hiding anything. And if
they're also worried about their jeopardy, but we know what Democrats care about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing except their own power and agenda. And I think they actually, they complain about crime all the time. But I got to digress here and show you how
said to the press that it's important to get a police chief in place so that we can fight crime. We've got to have somebody in charge. But meanwhile, somehow or another, they pulled out of the sky that because she got rejected, the mayor has the right to do another 45-day temporary appointment.
Well, we have to see that in writing.
I don't believe it. Well, it came from Fredette. It must be right.
Well, he doesn't look. That guy's pathetic. I mean, look at it's like it was sad up there.
It was.
They sit up there, they all go to meetings. Kilby's supposed to be a lawyer. And not one of them knew if there's a parliamentary question, who makes the ruling. You know what I know, at the chair. Joe Camara had to tell them that he is the final arbiter. He is the parliamentarian on parliamentary questions. You want to appeal that, file a lawsuit. In regular places, in union meetings, chair makes the ruling. In organizations like labor, like I did, if I made a ruling, it stood. But if somebody didn't like it, they could appeal to the International Association of Firefighters and their bylaws, and we had a parliamentarian who would make rulings, and we went to conventions. That's the only place, by the way, for you guys who like parliamentary procedure, like CJ and I like it, the only place I've ever heard the motion to challenge the chair be effective, because when you made a motion at an International Association of Firefighters convention, you know who they had sitting at the dais? A parliamentarian.
That's right.
And when you questioned the chair, you took a vote, and if the majority of the body supported the motion to question the chair, they would ask a parliamentarian, a professional interpreter of it, a judge, so to speak. And when we went there, we were using Atwoods. Now they give the option of Atwoods or Roberts. But when I went to the conventions, you know who was our parliamentarian? Mr. Atwood. So there was never a question of whose interpretation was right about anything, because you had a parliamentarian. But in the absence of a parliamentarian, Joe Camara is 100% right on that. And they tried to use, again, manipulation of the law. Oh, I'm sending a lawyer down there. Everybody's shaking their boots. He's a lawyer. But that lawyer doesn't know crap about parliamentary procedure. Okay? Because if one of those idiots in those chairs or up on a 6th floor watching or waiting to applaud before the objections came out, not one of them realized that Linda could have flipped that vote. The one who said she was going to take care of it gassed it, tanked it, because she doesn't know anything. She's been in that council for over 20 years, and she doesn't know how to make a motion to reconsider. And it's only legal at the next either the meeting where the motion is made or the next subsequent meeting. That is gone now. That option is closed thanks to their stupidity. Congratulations, idiots. You blew it. You had a way to make this person a chief. Paul, you listening? Your chief of staff listening? That's why you lose all the time. You got crap lawyers. You got people that don't pay attention to laws except to manipulate them. And you don't know a damn thing about parliamentary procedure except the rudiments. So this is, again, you could have had your police chief last night, and they couldn't have done a damn thing about it because that motion was in order. Joe Camara could not rule that motion out of order. She voted on a prevailing side. Period.
I will tell you now, taking personalities out of this, I don't think Furtado is qualified to be the police chief. From what I've been told today by several sources, and again, they might be wrong. They might be wrong. She only has a GED. She got her GED and became a dispatcher. Then took the test to become a police officer and served mostly as a school resource officer.
Yeah, well, I've got to disagree with Colin. Colin, I don't believe that's true. If she would have made a motion to reconsider, it can be seconded by someone on the non-prevailing side, which means either Kilby, Hart, or Laura, or Andrew Raposo could have seconded the motion, and those four who voted who wanted this police chief the last time would have voted in favor, and so would Linda. It would have been 5-4 for the motion to reconsider.
Right.
It would have been 5-4 in favor of the motion to reconsider. And as far as the police chief's concerned, listen, I would never. I don't know if she's qualified or not. This is why we need a process.
That's right.
We don't need Paul Coogan to pick her because she's his friend. We don't need you or I to pick her because I don't know. I will be the first one to say, I don't know anything about policing. You're not, I respect.
Sean Kadim had it right. Sean Kadim had it right. Put it back in civil service. At least with civil service, Paul will get a choice. The top 3 candidates in the list. May not be the one he wants, but that's the way it is. That's civil service. We need to go back to civil service.
Yeah, but you can't. You know why? Once it doesn't work for him, they want to throw it out again. Look what happened to his brother. His brother couldn't pass a captain's exam, and then he kissed the mayor's butt, and he made him chief for 13 days until the uproar was so bad. And they eliminated the only department in the city that remained civil service, because I fought against it when Carlton took it all out, was the fire department. Then after they did that with Coogan, they put it back in civil service again. But the problem with that scenario, CJ, is you're going to take the civil service exam. If the one you like doesn't finish in the top 3, you can't select them.
That's right.
Which already proved she couldn't do the job, or he couldn't do the job. So now that's it. Kiss the ring. Yeah, exactly. Kiss the ring. That's this is what non-civil service. Civil service gives you the 3 people who have the highest score. So if you're going to tell me you want to pick the person who got the lowest score of 10 people who took a chief's exam to be a chief, doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. I'm sorry.
Stevie just said at the beginning of Coogan's mayoral election, even the crickets pitied him. Steve also says that he firmly believes that they don't want citizens' input. They want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of it for a long time, Steve. We know that.
Look, civil service, the most obscene example of that was Boston. Boston for years had a fire commissioner. That fire commissioner had a requirement of being a chief officer for 10 years before he could become the commissioner. You couldn't be a guy that moved from sergeant to lieutenant to captain to chief in 6 years because they knew somebody. You had to have 10 years as a chief level officer to be the commissioner. And when the commissioner stood up for his firefighters in Boston, they changed the rules. They took that position out, changed the rules, and they hired a retired naval officer who was the mayor's buddy. This is what politicians do. What's the answer to that? Get rid of your politicians on a regular basis.
Yep. No question about it.
Well, listen, that person told you and me and CJ and everybody that's on this show to move out of Fall River. We don't have a right to a different opinion, just like Kadeem didn't have the right to a different opinion. You don't agree with Paul, get out of town. You don't belong here. You're not part of the team.
We've been told to jump off the bridge.
Jump in a lake, But the only thing you can't tell us to shut up about is talk about housing because we both own houses.
That's right.
So he can tell the other people that. Shut up, you don't own a house, you live in public housing. But that doesn't disqualify them.
That's right, it doesn't.
The Democrats love to talk about democracy, but they don't give a damn about democracy. They don't give a damn about anything. They don't give a damn about crime, like that MS-13 guy they're trying to get back. And now I'm going to quickly, you and I were talking about this off the air. This is the headline. Top Trump officials filed charges against illegal immigrant after Fox News exposes early release plans. The Trump administration is filing federal charges against an illegal immigrant that was convicted of manslaughter and was set to be released early by the California state government. Hasta Eduardo Ortega Anguilo was driving drunk, high, and speeding at nearly 100 miles an hour on the 405 freeway in Orange County in 2021. Crashed into a car being driven by a young couple, 19-year-old Anna like must be Russians, Nikolai Oskin. Those Russian names throw me. They killed them both, and they were burned alive in the crash. An illegal did this, burned alive in the crash. He was convicted on 2 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. The California state government was planning to release him after serving 3.5 years. Enough said. You Democrats don't ever talk to me that you give a shit about anybody except power and illegals. 3.5 years, he burnt 2 people to death while high. If I did that or you did that, you'd be doing life.
That's right.
I mean, this is just every day you read about this stuff. And these people say, and this is what Coogan likes, a dictatorial government. You send these little minions down to the thing and they're going to yell, shame on you, shame on you.
Stevie's got a comment here. The only applause for Coogan's first State of the City was glad the exit signs were functioning.
Oh, Jesus.
Stevie, you keep us in tears. I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of things. It is long overdue. And the police station is a swamp. Fatima says it's a swamp. And look, it is what it is. This city is being run by, everything's covered up. And we have another cover up. We're going to save that one for Friday?
No, I think we should whet everyone's appetite.
We'll just touch on it. And Colin, we will be reaching out to you. I know you're watching. We have one of our sources has given us a copy of a document generated in the school department. You may be aware of it. I don't know. But there is another allegation of sexual harassment being alleged, and I will say alleged. And that document clearly It's very clear. It's a very short document. And the case was dismissed because of supposedly Title IX. I don't know how Title IX can have laws that supersede federal law, because then in that letter, if you read it, which we have, CJ and I have read it, it clearly states that this dismissal wasn't because the alleged perpetrator was not guilty. It didn't satisfy the Title IX definition of sexual harassment, but it could violate city, state, or federal law, which it does. We read the statement. It's a clear violation. It is clearly sexual harassment. If what was quoted in that thing, I don't know how Title IX, and Colin, as a school committeeman, I would get a hold of the state and
the
find out
government.
And a federal government, and find out how Title IX can redefine sexual harassment to make it harder for someone who's harassed to file a complaint, which is wrong. There is going to be, from what we've been told, there is a lawsuit being considered, and I can tell you right now, if that lawsuit is filed and they get a good lawyer, the school department in this city is going to get hammered. And by the way, just as an aside, cover up, you're right, always with Coogan. Cover up Coogan, that's his name. That's one of our nicknames for him. But I'll remind everybody that there is a sexual harassment policy in the city of Fall River. We went over this with Malone. When I was a chief on a fire department, district chief on a fire department, every year we had to give a class on the sexual harassment policy of the city of Fall River, which was based on the federal law. Part of that was to watch a video which said you can't even tell off-color jokes.
That's right.
It's a very stringent law. And everybody had to take it. And everybody on my shift had to take that. And if they were out sick or they were on a vacation, they had to take a makeup. The school department had to take it. I can guarantee you Paul Coogan took it. What happened to that policy? It's gone. As soon as these crooked mayors started getting in office, no more. That had to be an annual, everybody in this city had to review the sexual harassment policy, and it's in somebody's drawer or they burnt it. It did exist, because I can bring 300 firefighters down to testify that they had to sit through that, because I had to sit through it with everybody at every station. I had to sit
and you weren't happy about it.
I had to sit through it at the Flint station when they gave it, and at the Globe station, and at every station that I was in charge of when I was on duty, and all my shifts had to watch it. So I didn't get to watch it once. I got to watch it multiple times. I know it existed because I sat through it. And I know what was said there. A good lawyer is going to crucify them.
That's right. You know it to be true.
We'll get into the details Friday, now that we got you all on the nibble. This is the cliffhanger. Like they have the... Yeah, that's what he did. High five and hall monitoring. Yeah, you're right. City manager. That's CJ and I have been yelling for that for like 20 years.
That's right. But Mike Maioza didn't want it. Mike Maioza wrote this charter to benefit the elected official.
I still want to know what happened to that city policy. I still want to know, because it was years. It wasn't like a one-time deal. We did that for years. It's just like the progressive discipline policy that I gave to the fire chief one time, because we had problems with non-uniform discipline. And we all know what progressive discipline is. It's verbal warning, written warning, blah, 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 depending on the crime. But you know what that did? It was the Boston Fire Department's manual for aggressive discipline. It was about yay thick, bigger than this screen right now. And I gave it to him. He stuck it in the bottom drawer. It's probably still there. If the new chief looks for it, he'll probably find it there. You know, but they don't ever do anything. Yes, you're right. We should have announced that. Ricky Tiff is our new city councilor. And for what I've been told, he's said he is in favor of a process for the police chief. So, I don't know. Listen, like I said, look, I don't want to be in this discussion on selecting a police chief. I'm a big process guy. You know, when I was in the military and you went up for a promotion, you got interviewed by people in the military who knew the job you were going to do. When I was on a fire department, when I got interviewed for promotion, I got interviewed by the deputy chief and a chief and people who knew. And I don't believe that I can comment. I don't, you know, I know they're attacking her educational. She doesn't have an education, and you know that could be tied to her job because I know the police get more money on the Quinn bill like the firefighters do for education, but she's, you know, you suffer that with experience in civil service exams because you can claim your education's experience points. So, but I mean, listen, she could still be somebody who spent a lot of time on a street, really knows policing, knows the city, but it's going to take a professional to examine that. I cannot comment on her. Paul Coogan can't. Paul Coogan can't even comment on what it takes to be a principal because he never got to be a principal. So you got a guy that's been in a subordinate position his whole life. You make him in charge, and all he does
off the city
is never ever lead.
Probably
9 city councilors. And I'm going to tell you something. Of those 9 city councilors, 4 of those city councilors should have been offended that he sent it down. Paul Hart, Brad Kilby, our new nickname, the Two Stooges, now for them, and Andrew Raposo, and now former city councilor, Laura Sampson, should have been offended. They voted unanimously. They did vote for a process. Paul Coogan sent it down again, and they were prepared to go violate the vote that they made to have a process to give the guys whose ring they kiss his way. That's why they do not belong in the city council.
That's right.
Andrew Raposo has got to go. She's already gone. Linda's got to go. And
Brad and Paul have got to go.
Brad and Hart have got to go.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, I watched Ricky T's swearing in. He filmed it, and he had it out there. For people who said, are we going to need a translator for city council meetings? We might.
No, Ricky T speaks English.
He speaks English, but like with other people whose primary language isn't English, you can pick up on that fact. Mm-hmm. But there are going to be things that people just don't understand. Now, personally, I've never been a big supporter of Ricky T. I've had conversations with him. I've heard his positions, but I still think, and I still think it right now, and I hope he proves me wrong. But I think he's going to become a Paul Coogan kiss ass. I think he's going to become one. He may not support this chief or support the lack of a process, but I do believe he's going to support Paul. I believe that. I don't believe for a moment that he won't.
Well, let's see if it comes true. I hope that it took him long enough to get in there. I hope he learns this is his audition, and that it's not his job to support the mayor. It's his job to represent the people of Fall River, the people of Fall River. And if the mayor puts down something that helps the people of Fall River, he can be all aboard on the freight train. But when he sends down garbage like this, will not agree to a process, he's got to, and look, I don't have any problem with people disagreeing with issues, but it's got to be about the people, not about the patronage. This is the patronage train. Paul, the pathological prevaricator patronage. Paul, we got all kinds of P's now. We got a lot of alliteration here. But
Stevie just said, Coogan gave me a pep talk. Even I didn't believe it.
And listen, I'm glad somebody brought up the fact, and congratulations on him being the first Cambodian elected in his community. The Cambodian community does make up a fairly decent section of this community, and if you speak broken English, if you're Portuguese, if you're whatever, that doesn't mean you're dumb. Okay.
I never said that. I never said that.
No, I know that, CJ. But what I'm saying is, this is one of the problems with people. They say that, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that's labels. They want labels. They don't want. It's about merit. It's meritocracy. If he goes in there and he does the job, I don't care if he doesn't have the biggest vocabulary in the world. I don't care if once in a while you got to maybe ask for him to clarify what he said, because it's not his first language. But you know something? It's got to be about what they do. These people were elected, swore an oath under the Constitution to be our agents and our substitutes and represent us at all times, not kiss the mayor's ring or the other end of them.
That's right.
Because this is nuts. I mean, all we got is cover-ups. Now we got this other cover-up coming in the school department. And after I read that, I was appalled. And they did it very, you could tell that whoever's the HR guy didn't write that. They got Bruce Assad or somebody like that to write that opinion, because it's very well framed, but it's also very, very vague. It tells you in the text, this doesn't mean he's innocent. Well, when you read that, you tell me, if that was your daughter and somebody said that to your daughter, there wouldn't be a sexual harassment suit. There might be an assault in the hallway of Durfee.
That's right. I'll tell you now. I've worked in education, as you know. And when a sexual harassment complaint was filed, one person didn't make the decision. Not one person didn't make the decision. You had a department head, unless the department head was the person being accused. But you had a department head, you had a dean, an associate dean, and union representative.
That's funny.
You had a committee of people for a process. And they would listen to the testimony, which obviously the Fall River Public Schools did not take. And
did you read Alphonse's?
Yes, I did.
I'll tell you what, you must have driven those genetic companies crazy, getting your tree. That's quite I mean, you probably got them. You're as mixed as it can come, and like you said, but it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference. Yeah, but he'll never do that. He's making money, and he's being done he's doing what he's told, and they want another 2 years to do exactly that. And like I said, it's reprehensible what's going on. We had the Malone cover up. We'll never find out anything about, unless we get a mayor that pulls a Trump and releases all the documents after they've been in. You know, I mean, right now we found, I always believed it, but I'm a pseudo conspiracy theorist. I always believed that the CIA killed Kennedy. And now it's pretty well established that it was not done. It was not done by one individual, as anybody that knew anything about firing weapons and knowing that he used an old bolt action with no scope and why they killed him immediately afterwards. But this was an operation, and they're attributing it back to a political maneuver of John F. Kennedy when he would not invade Cuba, and he fired the head of the CIA. This is scary stuff. When American law enforcement and spy agencies murder Americans because they won't do what they want them to do. And look what they do with illegals. The guy burns 2 people to death. Well, a horrifying death that is. The last one I heard about was that one of the Leahy brothers who was rear-ended by a state trooper on Route 24 and burnt to death in his car. And that was many, many, many years ago. And he was a good high school runner. The 2 brothers were the top runners at Conley and ran against my son, who ran for Durfee. Just the side, he beat him. But but that's another thing. But no, this is outrageous. I mean, we can't have phantom governments. That's the moral of this story. We can't have a Paul Coogan in office, the guy that ran on transparency. Nothing. You don't know anything. We know nothing. If we wouldn't have got this from a source, we never know about it. I don't know if Colin knows about it, but if Colin, you're still watching, will you please? I'm going to investigate that Title IX. I don't, because they do show what that is, but it baffles me. You know, you can't make a law that is less than a federal law. If they tell you you can't have less than, you can't go more than 65 miles an hour on a highway. You can't go, if you have a law that allows people to go more than 65, you're going to lose federal aid. You're going to lose a whole bunch of things for highways because you can't make a law easier. You can make it more stringent. If you want to make a law, they say 55, you say 50, that law can stand up, but it can't stand up. You know, and I don't know how they can put in that letter that it doesn't mean he's not guilty, but you would have to look for city, state, and other laws that have a more stringent definition. My question is, how do you have a lesser definition than the federal government has for sexual harassment? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I've spent a lot, and I don't claim to be a lawyer, and I don't know anything about Title IX. I'm not a school teacher. So the thing is that I would have to investigate it now because that's just the way I am. But the fact is that I don't know this, but it doesn't make any sense to me. I have never seen anybody have a lesser definition. It would be like the state of Massachusetts, and I probably the liberals in this state would like that, to say the definition of murder is only when you murder people that they dislike. So if you murder people they like, they don't. You're not guilty of murder. But that's
when it comes to corruption, we know it runs rampant in Fall River, and as Steve said, Coogan is better to keep quiet and let people think he's an idiot than speak up and confirm it. How true?
Yeah, I'm well aware of weapons, Alphonse. I fired a lot of weapons in the military, but he was using a bolt action. I think it might have been a Czechoslovakian or a Russian rifle, because he did go over to Russia. It was a bolt action, no scope. Yeah, sniper rifles can hit. Yeah, you can hit anything with a sniper rifle. I mean, if you know how to fire a weapon, if you don't jerk the trigger and you know how to breathe, because there is a method of breathing that you have to get, because there's a particular time in your breathing cycle that you have to fire a weapon, especially when you're firing a long distance rifle. So yeah, but the Kennedy assassination was in 1964, I believe. And the sniper rifles weren't quite as good then, but it doesn't, sniper rifle, if you can shoot pretty well, you can get it. You can if you get a good rifle, it'll make you a better shooter. But great shooters, actually, if you ever saw that movie Enemy at the Gates with the Russian sniper, he started out with a rifle with no scope on it, and one of the most prolific snipers in history was from Finland, and he killed over 800 Germans, and with a bolt action old rifle from the 1930s. So he was just a great shot. So shooting is a skill, and it's a perishable skill if you don't practice.
Yeah, if you don't practice it.
1963 was Kennedy assassinated. 60? You saying 64? I don't know.
63.
63? Okay.
Yeah.
The year off. Okay.
Well, we've covered a lot of stuff today, and it's only going to get better on Friday, so make sure you watch. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And if they don't have an IQ over 5, get rid of them. Have a great day.
Correction, Alphonse. 63. I was close, though.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.